Now, design can be lots of different things. This is a very good example of design. I'm very fond of this boat and the shapes, even though I think it's one of the hallmarks of yacht design. It's a Wally power, and it's a real statement of design. But this is also design from a different perspective, for a different use, but this boat has also been designed by somebody who had obviously clear ideas about what he wanted to do. It's a fishing boat transformed into a family boat, a Norwegian one, as I'm sure you can imagine. Coming back to what we talked about earlier, designing requires designing the right boat for the right client, involves finding out how it will be used. Is it a family boat? This is my little daughter. Sailing is a good example of a family boat. Looks like I was very busy taking pictures of her instead of looking at what was about to crash, but that was okay. It all ended well. Or one can design boats for friends, which is another market. It's also fun. But it's all part of the communication process and trying to figure out what your client is looking for. Talking about design is difficult not to talk about inspiration, even if I believe in a rational and methodological approach, and trying to start from scratch on a blank sheet of paper. We always are being inspired, and if you look back at boat design, we can see a number of inspirations from other areas of transport design. This is some fine examples of trains from the streamlined period before World War II. I believe these are some of the first examples of when product designers or transportation designers were getting really involved in what up to then was mostly designed by engineers. This is another fine example of a ferry that used to operate out of Seattle, which is a great example of streamlined design. Last time I was in Seattle, which is a few years ago now, this boat was actually auctioned the very same day I was there. She had been abandoned and left to rot, so to say, and she was picked up by somebody from San Francisco who was going to turn it into a car museum, his own private car museum, which is so well suited for that. It's a car ferry, it's got a great car deck, but a fantastic design. There are many other examples, more recent examples of, I think, inspiration from transportation design, cross inspiration from other fields of design. These are more modern trains, boats. This is a boat we designed and built in Denmark in carbon fiber, mostly. Some Kevlar, 45 knots, actually hit 50 knots at one point. Quite inspired by other transportation designs. In the 50s, another material became available for aircraft design. Already been available a bit before, but it came into boat design and boat building and shipbuilding. It was aluminium, and it's a great material, lightweight, which also has found its place in both the aviation world and the shipbuilding world and the yacht building world. You can see a lot of similarities here in terms of geometries. They're not necessarily intended, I think, but if you look at the windscreen windows here on the boat between the Falcon Jet, and this is the silver, all aluminium boat, which is built in Australia. There's a few pictures. I'll run through these quickly, but some more examples of crossover inspirations. This is one of John Banneberg's famous boats, gas turbine exhaust. You can see here, clearly quite automotive inspired with these exhaust pipes, oval. You can see them here very clearly also on the previous picture of the Porsche. Personally, I know one car designer who's here in tonight who is designing beautiful boats, so I guess there is a lot of, right, Igor? This is some other similarities here between a wonderful designed car from the 50s and the boat. I don't know whether you know this boat. This was a boat that was kind of our breakthrough in the motor yacht market. It was designed in the late 90s for a client who was a mathematician, still is a mathematician, and who had an extremely interesting, one of the rare clients who really wanted to have something unique and who was prepared to go for it all the way to the end. Being a mathematician, he was extremely rational and logical, and applied many of the principles I've talked about earlier, and he was questioning everything. One of the big things he questioned about yachts, having chartered a few yachts, and we know some friends' yachts, was why they all looked like they were carved out of soft cheese. He told me, and I will never forget, he said, Espen, steel and aluminium comes in flat plates and profiles. Let's try to reflect that in the design. So obviously, being a mathematician, he understood that the hull needed to be, for hydrodynamic reasons, curved in the bow. For the rest, the design principles we had to apply were no complex surfaces, only cirques or arcs of circles and flat plates. So the boat turned out to be a combination of many flat intersecting surfaces with some radiuses. In many ways, you can see that his inspiration in many ways, I guess, were commercial ships and military ships, which for various reasons are built in the same way. So now we're now slowly getting into the other thing I was asked to talk about. It was my own experience. This is an example of kind of a defining moment of my own career when we launched this boat, and it had sort of mixed reception amongst the public. Some people loved it, some people hated it, but very few were, how should I say, didn't care about it. So you either hate it or you love it. So that was a good thing for me, and we did win, I think, 2 prizes for it. So it was an interesting start of my own career when I started my own company. One of the fans sent me this image that he'd built himself as a young boy, which was, I find very cute. He's built his own Lego scat, which was kind of interesting. I'm sure that for you, many of this will be familiar. The design spiral, often used in naval design or in naval architecture. I wouldn't be surprised if it's used in more general design disciplines. This is just to illustrate a little bit of the process, since I was asked to talk about my own experience. The whole design process is an iterative process. It starts out with making certain assumptions, sketches and profiles and general arrangement plans, main dimensions, some first preliminary hull designs, some first preliminary 3D models. Then further down the line, more complicated models integrating many of the systems, the structure, and so on. The whole process being iterative on all of these will be individually revisited many times, and as long as it is a spiral and not circles, you're doing okay. Sometimes you find yourself just going around in circles, and you're not going towards the center, and then it takes time, it becomes costly, and one generally doesn't achieve what one is setting out to achieve. This last picture is my own picture I took one day up in the mountain, and it shows us how all the sheep are following each other. And if there's one advice I would like to give you tonight as designers and young designers, most of you, don't necessarily follow the others. Go your own way. What you believe is important, what you believe in. If you do something, if you believe in what you're doing, you'll go far. I acknowledge that it is a problem to find clients who would support you. The clients who really are prepared to do something truly unique. There are not many of them. There's a lot of luck in finding them. There are a lot of very good designers out there and engineers who have never been able to bring their products into production or to the public. But I would nevertheless urge you all to just stick to your course, do what you believe is good, And that will give you the strength, and that will in end give you success, I'm sure. I could go on forever and ever showing you tons of photographs of boats we have done and so on, but I don't think it's the... I see some people are already sleeping here, so we won't go on for much longer. If you have any questions or anything, you know, please. Yes, please.
Да, будьте добры. Как вы думаете, какой сейчас тренд основной в яхтенном дизайне?
I think over the last few years we've all seen a pretty radical, lot of radical new designs that have come out, much as a result of clients becoming younger, wealthier, and more daring. And whereas in the past, clients of yachts would often be near retirement age and be pretty conservative. I think that we will see a continuity of more and more daring designs, definitely orientated also towards ecology and you know, respect for nature. I wouldn't be surprised if we'll see more and more sailing boats. Often journalists ask me, what for you is the optimum green boat, ecological boat? And I say we can do a lot to make them more ecological. It'll never be as efficient in terms of ecology as a sailing boat. Now seem to have, I mean, I have some pictures here of boats like Maltese Falcon. That is a good example of, you know, a lot of new thinking, applying old principles, but new thinking. And I believe that combined power of computers, hydraulic systems, we will see novel rigs perhaps coming into play, lighter boats, which is always good for ecology because we need less energy to move through water. I thought after the onset of the financial crisis that we would see possibly the end of big large yachts. It doesn't seem to be the case. There seems to be a renewed interest in large yachts, both power and sailing. So that's, I guess, the good news for us who are in the business. But to tell you the exact trend is difficult. I didn't bring my crystal ball. We'd like to perhaps just add that you can see more and more people wanting to go farther away with the yachts. So there's, you know, not just limit themselves to the Mediterranean and the Caribbean Sea. More and more people we had 3 yachts that we've designed this summer that went through up to Canada, to Greenland, to Iceland, Norway, and one of them went through the Northwest Passage, which I think is a trend as well. People want to go to faraway places, and this will definitely have an impact on the design of the yachts. To be more explorer-like.
Вопрос номер 1. Правильно ли мы поняли, что вы являетесь автором дизайна корвета Visby? Name Visby.
Visby? No, it's not me. Oh yeah, the Swedish. No, not at all. I'm not at all. No. We Swedish.
Question number 2. Значит, как вы относитесь к проекту Филиппа Старка «Яхта А»?
I think it's very, very impressive. I've been driving around it in a tender. From the outside, it's very, very impressive. I have never been on board, so I couldn't tell you from what I've seen on board. But it's I particularly like the hull. It's the most beautiful hull, I think. The bow is fantastic, very powerful. And I understand from people who have been on board, including shipyard people, that it's a very seaworthy boat. It's got a good seakeeping. It responds well to seas, I understand.
I like it.
If I like
Yes.
The yacht A, yes, I like it. Yeah. There are a couple of practical things with perhaps I could see as a practical engineer that perhaps I myself would have done that differently, but I think the overall impression is one that is very powerful.